Facebook, it is that time of the week again where we are going live for the GQ How to Succeed series. We are very fortunate tonight to be joined by a very good friend and long-term advisor of not only mine but the entourage, and also a good friend of GQ's, Mr. Dorry Kordahi. Now, Dorry is one of Australia's largest and unpublicised entrepreneurs. This guy started from very humble beginnings, failing high school, starting work as an apprentice hairdresser, working in the basketball industry. He went into his cousin's wholesaling business at the age of 21, realised he had an affinity and a natural talent for not only sales but also business. And today is the CEO and owner of DKM Blue, a specialised merchandising company, as well as a diversified portfolio of other companies in fashion and retail. He's grown into one of Australia's leading entrepreneurs. He's been listed on the BRW Fast Starter list and on the BRW Young Rich list since he was 36 years old. The reason I reached out to Dorry and said, mate, we've got to get you on, is he's just written his second book, which is Win Big, Risk Small. Now, this is available as we speak for pre-sale and will be released formally in October the 1st. So Dorry's here to talk about his story, some of his really pertinent business fundamentals, as well as giving us a sneak peek into the new book. Dorry, thanks for joining us.
All right, Jack, you well?
Good to have you, mate.
Thank you.
Very well. How are you?
Good, good.
You're looking good.
Working out.
I can tell.
Trying to get into shape and keeping busy.
I was telling Dorry before we went live that every time I see him, he gets better looking and fitter.
Trying to, mate.
I wish I could say that for myself.
Trying to. You're looking good yourself.
Mate, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, mate. Thank you.
Talk to us about your story. As I mentioned in the intro, you started out as an apprentice hairdresser,
Yeah.
and I imagine would never have envisaged sort of where you are today. Talk to us about how it all started.
For me, even going back to high school, I failed my HSC. Growing, my dad forced me to get into the hairdressing business because he had his own salon. If I look at my career back then and seeing where I am today, there's no way I would have thought I'd be where I am today, talking to you as well, and seeing what I've achieved in my career. I wasn't passionate for what I was doing at a young age, but I was forced into it just out of default. And for me, as you said earlier on, I was lucky enough to have my cousin sort of inspire me to change a career path, because he knew I just wasn't clicking with it, and just took that leap. And I was fortunate at 21. I sort of found my calling in an industry that I'm still doing today, 16 years later.
And guys, as always, what we're going to do tonight is give you the opportunity to set a lot of the agenda. So if you've got questions for Dorry, make sure you punch them into the comments below. As always, they will pop up on my magic iPad over here. Don't ask me how that happens. I still haven't worked it out, but it does. So do that. The guys behind the camera will moderate it and it will pop up here. Dorry, first question's from Laura, which is a really good one. She says, did you just wake up one day and decide that you wanted to be more than a hairdresser? What motivated you to take that leap?
I've always had the passion. I've always known internally I was going to be successful. What the career path was, I had no idea. I thought it was going to be basketball because I was growing up playing basketball my whole life. There was, I guess, I was fortunate enough, given the opportunity to start in a career, in a new career that I wasn't sort of familiar with, which was, selling T-shirts and wholesaling. I always had that inner belief, and that's I think that's important, is having that inner belief and finding that path. And when you're not happy with a career path that you're doing, just have the courage to leave and keep on exploring new career paths that can actually sort of let you explore those new challenges in life. And I was fortunate. The first one that I took was the one that I actually loved doing. So yeah.
Hit a home run at your first at
bat. Yeah, lucky enough.
Mate, you mentioned you always knew you were going to be successful. Can you describe what that inner knowing was? Is that sort of intuition for you?
I think it's that just that inner confidence.
Yeah.
Whether you want to call it ego or arrogance or self-belief, I think any successful person, you need to have that sort of self-confidence with what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I relate a lot of things back to my sport. Playing basketball at a young age, you need to have confidence and and belief within yourself to play at a high level. I don't know. I think it's just an inner build that I've had in my body, that I've always believed that whether I'm better than someone else or I can do better, or that's the inner inner hunger that you either have or you don't have, I guess.
It's funny you mentioned that. Jack Minchin has asked Dorry, I heard you like basketball. What similarities and differences do you see between comparing sport and business?
For me, look, I talk a lot about that in my book as well. Growing up with no university degree and no marketing degree and no business knowledge other than working in a family business. So when I started my company for my parents' garage at 25, all I could relate back was to my sport. And you look at it, you look at a basketball team. You're preparing at training. You're going to training before your team gets there. The ones that train more or train longer hours are going to improve. You look at your team. You don't have 5 all-stars on your team. You have probably 1 or 2 all-stars. You have a few role players, a few on the bench that can actually support the starting 5. So when I looked at building my team, it was all about building the right mixes of dynamics with staff personnel. I started my business at a young age, hiring a lot of juniors because I had the ability that I actually worked 4 or 5 years in the industry that I actually picked up a lot of the industry from the ground, from the grassroots all the way up. So by doing that, it gave me the opportunity that I can actually train a lot of younger staff. And I related a lot back to my sport. And when you look at, you got your teamwork, your training, the mental approach to a game, to visualizing your moves on a basketball court. It's the same thing with business. You need to think 4 or 5 steps ahead. And that's something that I've been fortunate that I've been able to do successfully, is actually not thinking your next step, but 3, 4, 5 steps ahead. And what parts are you going to need in your team or in your business, in your staff, that's going to help you get to that point a lot quicker.
Mate, one of the things I love about the new book is you're really candid about talking about the challenges that you've faced. Talk to us about what some of the challenges have been for you.
Look, for me, I've been very fortunate that the challenges I've had haven't been based around the business. It's been, the challenges I've had have been right at the early part of my career. It was more about just, believing that I can do it and the fear factor and pushing myself out of the comfort zone. Working for my family business for 4 years and, taking that step of leaving, saying, you know what, I'm going to do it better, I'm going to do it my way. It was going through that the mental process. And, taking those small steps at the start of my career, when I started my business, is not rushing the process. And that's something that I've been very fortunate. When I first started, prior to that, I always used to try to chase the dollars. And every time I chased it, I never got it. So it was a whole frustrating aspect of not succeeding. And when I started the company, I thought, you know what, I'm going to refocus on building the right business and the right fundamentals. And from that, a byproduct should be wealth or money or profit. So the challenges was having the patience and, putting on the brakes a lot as a starting point. And that's sort of a lot of Gen Y or, young entrepreneurs or startups. They want to get to the end of the race. I always say, you don't land on a mountain, you climb a mountain. And it's the small steps and stages you take that gets to that point. And it's the patience. And I've been fortunate. I've learned to teach myself patience.
One of the, knowing you quite well and sort of having been friends now, I think it's been 7 years since we've been hanging out. One of the things I can say is truly remarkable about you and how you approach business is your unwavering focus on bottom line and operational efficiency, which is probably 2 qualities that, as you say, are missing from a lot of Gen Y early stage entrepreneurs, where it's more about the capital raising and the vision in 10 years' time. And you come at business with a huge degree of depth. I think chapter 13 in the book talks about profit over turnover. Talk to us about that philosophy and how important that's been for you. Well,
it's brought me to where I am today. I've always focused on bottom line. Everyone always says, everyone's talking about valuations and I'm valued this much on via a mathematical figure. They're worth nothing if you can't trade yourself to the next stage of your business. And for me, it's always been around the small steps in what I've done in my career. You build your profits. Our business has grown for the last 16 years. It's been self-run, organically grown. We don't go to the banks to raise capital. We haven't gone to the market to raise capital. And I've always, you've got to run a tight ship. And the only way you can run a tight ship if you know what you're doing. And that's something that I've focused on. From a young age, when I started at 21 with my cousin, I was the warehouse guy, I was packing boxes, making calls, booking the couriers, selling. And I dove into all aspects of the business because I wanted to. I was employed as a salesperson. If I just thought myself as a salesperson, that was it, I'll still be a salesperson today. Yeah. So I actually dove and did more work because I wanted to learn and explore the industry, which gave me the understanding and the experience. So by doing that, when you do start your company, you can start it with a tight ship and run it with minimal staff. And that's been my philosophy from day one, and that's been able to give us that organic growth and that the profitability we've had over the years. That you can be able to you're able to enjoy it, the fruits of your success externally. There's no point turning over $50 million and spending $50 million to run. If you don't have the cash flow, it's a slow death. And that's something a lot of startups don't realise. You can raise the capital, but if you don't spend it wisely, it's a slow death by 1,000 cuts.
And talk to us about some of the sort of practical things you build into your week to ensure that you do that. We've spoken about reviewing invoices for half an hour every Friday, just at random, right? So you've got your finger on the... Talk to us about some of those behaviours that you've developed.
Look, it comes from day one. It's good principles from day one. If you set yourself with those good principles from, even like, when you're a kid, it's the way your parents bring you up. If your parents are bringing you up with, with good values and banging in your head, the good things that you're meant to be doing, you're going to grow up and end up doing it. So same thing in business, you just got to train yourself and teach yourself all aspects of your business. I still run across all parts of the business, from production to accounts, to walk into the warehouse, ask questions, because you've got to have your finger on the pulse, and you need to, and that's part of any successful person, is having your finger on the pulse.
Yep. Question from Christina. She says, a lot of entrepreneurs fail before they succeed. What's been your biggest failure that's led you to where you are today? And don't be humble here, because if there isn't one, then say that, because Dorry, if you look through his career, there's not been many missteps, and so if that's the truth, then that's the truth.
Honestly, look, no, I haven't had many failures.
Which is
awesome.
And
and that's because I've had a very solid foundation. And that's, when I've been interviewed and people have asked me so many questions. What are the failures you've had? I go, well, I haven't had any. Every failure I've had has been a small failure that has got me to where I've got to go. Nothing's ever been a costly, detrimental failure to the business. I will take small calculated gambles. And if they don't come off, well, we're not going broke in the business. So I haven't really had many, unfortunately. Well, fortunately for us, but I can't share an example.
Which is great, right?
Sorry.
After being in business for 20 years, which is just speaks to your ground up approach, right? Be familiar with all the areas of your business, know the operations, focus on the bottom line, don't get ahead of yourself. It's
and patience, and really take the patience approach, and actually get to know your business.
On the patience thing, was there ever a point, particularly, because you started this business at 26, when you were 27, 28, where you wanted to hurry a little bit faster and you needed to sort of will yourself to be more patient, or was that just something that always came naturally?
No, look, when I was in my early teens, I was very impatient. If I wanted something, I want it now, and whatever the repercussions are, I didn't care. But I think it came with, just changing my mindset. And, look, when I first started in my garage, there was a lot of profit. Because I was a one-man show. I worked for the whole year on my own, and I ran it all on my own. And there was a lot of profits in the business, and I could have gone out and done radical things, and but it's having that self-control. That's very hard to do. At 26, you get a lot of athletes who are, you see a lot of athletes who turn over $100 million and go broke by the time they retire their sports. It's a discipline. Or having the wrong people around them. Or having a big entourage that that costs a lot of money.
Some entourages are good when they're big. The bigger the better.
Which costs money. So it's discipline. And that's something that's really I've focused on at a young age.
And talk to us about that. In fact, before I get to that question, guys, we're going to bring up some feedback on your screens now. You'll be able to hit the like button or the love button or one of the buttons, and they'll each correlate to a particular response. But give us your feedback about how you're finding this episode and also how you found the series to date. Go ahead and do that now. Let's touch on that for a second. So, because becoming successful is one thing, staying successful is an entirely another thing.
Yeah.
Talk to us about some of the principles and spending behaviours that you've incorporated to really keep you at the top of the mountain.
Well, it's just consistent and being persistent. You know, for me, I've had 16 years of growth, and it's all about being consistent in what you do. And it's taking those small steps and taking the calculated gambles. Every year that we look at, I'll go through a couple of years where we'll go through a very sharp growth, and then I feel like we're sort of getting ahead of ourselves. Then the next year I look at trying to plateau out the business, so we can regather. And then once I feel that we've regathered, then we'll go for another push. And that's sort of knowing when to let the reins go and when to pull them back. And when you do success, being rich is one thing. Wealth can come and go. Being successful over a long period of time is a hard thing to do.
Absolutely.
And that just comes down to, once again, the patience and being, just taking those small steps as you go. And you got to look 4 or 5 steps ahead. And that's important.
Got a question from another Jack. He says, I want to bring a simple niche product to market, but I'm not really sure where to start. Are there resources that help aspiring entrepreneurs find the knowledge they need to get things moving?
I always say any industry you're going to get into or any field you're going to get into, you need to understand it. One of the analogies I say, just because you can put a bread into a toaster and you can put water, put coffee into a coffee cup and turn it into coffee, doesn't mean you know how to run a coffee shop. A lot of people want to start up, or they've got an idea. You want to look at a new product, or understand the industry that you're going to get into, and understand the product or the field you're going to look at. People look at, it's a $50 billion industry. So theoretically, if I make 1%, or if I get 0.5% of that, I'm going to make it rich. Numbers can always sound great. Pie graphs can always sound great. Your P&Ls can always sound great. Doing it is another thing. And the way to achieve it is actually, work in the industry or understand what field you're trying to get into. And that's very important.
There's another question here.
Not by another Jack.
That's 3 Jacks we've already had tonight. The question was around what still gets you up out of bed in the morning? What's driving you today?
I would say the fear of failure.
How so?
Just, it's the higher you climb, the harder the fall. So you just got to keep on climbing. For me, I could sit back and enjoy what I've done. But just the fear of failure, the fear of being overtaken, the fear of losing what you've achieved. Whether it's embarrassment or whatever it is, for me, it's what drives me is the fear of failure, the inner hunger. I think if you have a passion and a love for what you do, it just keeps you going. So for me, it's not work. It's actually it's my life. I actually have an enjoyment out of what I do, and there's always a side element of fun as well. Failure and just that inner hunger to drive, to keep on going and testing yourself and pushing yourselves to your next comfort zone. Whenever I feel I'm comfortable and content, I get nervous. And
I love that. Tell us why.
Because when things start becoming easy, then I start to worry. So then you start throwing...
Is that because you think that there's something going on that you don't know about and you sort of go in search of issues? And I don't mean create issues, I mean, there's always problems in business, and so you want to go and find what they are, or...
Just look, when things start running smoothly for me, it's like, well, this is becoming too easy, then I get bored. So instead of getting older and trying to enjoy my successes, I'm actually throwing more fuel into the fire. I'm like, geez, why am I giving myself more work? I should be, enjoying it.
You do love the challenge.
I do, yeah. Look, for me, it's about testing my ability and just sort of broadening your experience. And that's what actually excites me is, when you, we've had a lot of, 3 or 4 acquisitions over the last 3 years. I've been looking for acquisitions for the last 12 years and nothing came to fruition. And it all sort of came in the last 4 or 5 years. Like everything had started ticking.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why am I doing this for? I'm like, you know what? Well, it's a challenge, and you want to test yourself, and it's throwing another span in the woodworks to keep you going.
Yeah.
And look, and for me, I've always been very good at multitasking. I've always loved keeping myself busy.
Yeah.
And you've said to me many times, why are you doing that? I'm like, well, keeps you buzzing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it keeps you young. I don't know.
Well, clearly, this man, how old are you now? 42?
42.
Yeah, Jesus.
Getting whiter.
We have a very specific question from Roland. He said, can you give us 4 unchanging daily practices that have helped you over the years? 4.
That's tough. Why 4?
Can
I give you 1?
Not
can
3,
I give you 1?
4.
You know what? I don't have 4.
Well, you train.
I got back into training again.
Yep.
Just to sort of, help my mind.
Yep.
Geez, you know what? I don't have 4. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Talk to us about one of the conversations that we had recently was how many hours a week that you work, which again I think is
24 hours, 7 days a week.
Let's call it time in office, right? Which is impressive.
Yeah. Look, honestly, I don't. For me, it's between 8:30 and 5:30. I don't spend ridiculous hours in the office. When I first started in my parents' garage, I'd be in the office, up till 3, 4 in the morning. I put in long hours when I very, very first started. Now in the office, I'm working the normal hours.
Yeah.
But outside of the office, I'm constantly working, whether it's on emails, your brain's ticking, you're networking, or you never stop thinking. Yeah. And to switch off your mind when you own a company, it's impossible. I had more freedom and more enjoyment when I was working with my cousin in a business, because when you had your 3 weeks annual leave, you're on holidays. You'll forget about it. Now you can go to Europe or go to French Riviera, wherever you want to go. Yeah. You're emailing 4 or 5 hours a day. You can't stop. So it's a whole different mindset. Yeah. And that's part of it, I guess. So look, just try and stay mentally healthy, and just one thing I do on the weekends is a ritual that I do a lot. With my mindset is weekends I shut down. I just veg out at home and just. I might be lying on the couch at the back for 4 hours and just doing nothing, putting a bit of music on, and just having some alone time. I think that's important. Yeah. You can't be on a high every day, all day. So it's always having a bit of alone time. Yeah.
You ever got into meditating?
No. But I like lying down listening to music and sleeping, so that's probably meditation.
Pretty much Absolutely love it. Question from Chase. Dorry, where can we grab the new book?
You can buy it from winbigrisksmall.com, which is a website. So you can pre-buy it through the website now. It gets released October 1st through all leading bookstores, Booktopia, Dymocks, Angus and Robinson, and all other leading bookstores. It will be available on Kindle as well. So pre-buy it now. We'll wait till October 1.
Mate, if we were to go back to day 1 of DKM Blue, so you're 26 years of age, knowing everything that you know now, what's the number 1 piece of advice you would give to your younger self? You know what? Look, I wouldn't change anything, because I wouldn't be where I am today. So, people can say, I wouldn't. Every step that I've taken has been a calculated step. Has been yes, I look back, if I'd gone a bit more aggressive, would I have done a few things differently? Possibly, yes. But then if I had taken that career path, where would my life have been? Where would my life be? Probably wouldn't be here now. So, look, I've never looked back and tried to change things or saying, could I have done things a bit differently? And that's just, I think you've got to be content and comfortable with the decisions you've made to get you to where you are today. Yeah. And if you're not comfortable with that, then there's no point looking at the past. It's looking at the history. What can I do from this point on to make the right decisions and right steps to get to the next step? Yeah. That's something that you've got to look at. It's all about that mindset. Yeah. And broadly speaking, if you were talking, there's a lot of people watching this. They're either sort of early stage entrepreneurs or early stage career people. What's the number 1 piece of advice you'd give to them? Look, just have patience. Really have patience with what you're doing. Understand the field you're getting into. Understand the industry you're getting into. Have some work experience. Work in the field.
don't feel ashamed that you have to take the small steps. I took small steps. I didn't start it from my business was very small, and I took very slow steps at the start before I started making some big steps towards the end.
Yeah.
Get your hands dirty. Get into the trenches and start digging those trenches and the foundations, because the bigger your foundation, the more strength it's going to be, for your business not to fall over. So don't be scared to get your hands dirty. And if you don't know it, surround yourself with people that are a lot more older than you or mature, that are in that field, and just pick their brains.
Yeah.
When I was 20, 21 and I was a salesperson on a 35 grand salary, anyone that was I had my clients that were national sales managers who were on 80 grand. I'm like, wow, they were earning double my salary. Like, that's a massive. So I was like trying to pick their brains. How do I get to 80 grand a year? Like, to me, I was like, massive. What can I do with 80 grand? So I always surrounded myself with people that were earning more than me, or that were more successful than me, because you take from everybody and you formulate it in your own way, and you project it your own strategy behind that.
Yep, absolutely. Guys, as you can see, well, firstly, Dorry makes it sound easy. He makes it look easy as well, because he's truly exceptional at what he does. But what I love about this man is that he's one of the few people that talk about business fundamentals and really walks his talk in that aspect. When it comes to getting your hands dirty, being patient, building it from the ground up, putting in the work, he truly is absolutely world class. We're interested to know what were the main lessons you got out of tonight's episode. So let us know in the comments below. You will also have friends and colleagues and networks that might benefit from watching this discussion and future discussion. So hit the share button. Once you've shared the episode, just type share into the comments below so that we know that you've shared it, so that we can give you a big thank you. And last but definitely not least, head on over to Instagram. Follow Dorry. If you want practical advice as to how to build a business and a life that's truly meaningful and truly successful with substance, hit him up on Instagram. It's Dorry Kordahi. Dorry, Dorry, Kordahi, Kordahi. Dorry Kordahi, one word, on Instagram. And go and get this book and do that now. WinBigRiskSmall.com. WinBigRiskSmall.com. You're able to pre-purchase it. It's out October 1. I've been reading it for the last couple of days. Absolutely love it. Absolutely endorse it. So head over there and grab your copy now. Mr. Dorry Kordahi, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Jack.
Appreciate it.
Great. Thank you.